Happy Saturday night, Saturday Simulcast with Tom Dienhart and Alan Karpick joining you. And after the Boilermakers 30, what was the
35-24?
35-24 loss to Wisconsin as Purdue kind of went down in flames today to the Badgers in Camp Randall Stadium. I want to thank our sponsor, of course, the Union Club Hotel and the 811 Bistro Boiler Up Bar. It was a tough day for Purdue, Tom, and kind of got that way when you get down 21-0. Just it seemed like a cascade of miscues to start this football game. Can't say, at least from myself, that I saw this coming, but when you see that pick six and you go down 14-0, you say, and then like you said, then you don't make a 27-yard field goal. The nice way to say it is, it wasn't your day, but it sure wasn't Purdue's day.
No, you're exactly right. There's no way you can come to any other summation, Alan. Disappointment, exasperating. When you've got so much in front of you, Alan, you're tied atop the Big Ten West. A world of possibilities still await you. You can actually control the Big Ten West by yourself for at least 1 week because Illinois was off, right? You had sole possession of first place in the Big Ten West. You won 4 games in a row, coming off a pretty nice effort against Nebraska. And then there's this. And 4 minutes into the game, it's 14-0. And you hate to make a big overstatement, but God, it sure felt like it was over then.
Yeah.
35-24 was the final score, but it felt like it was 100-15. Purdue was never in this game. At least I never felt at any point in this game was Wisconsin really threatened. And there's enough blame to go around. We could be on this simulcast for 2 hours pointing fingers. I guess the most positive thing you can say is Purdue's ability to win the West is still in front of it, Alan.
Yeah.
If it wins out, it can still win the Big Ten West. It comes up on an off week now. They can catch their breath. They can sort of reset, get people healthy, try to get some things cleaned up, especially in the secondary, and sort of move forward, Alan. But I tell you what, if you're a coach, you don't want to spend too much time going over the gory details of this game here. You do have things you have to correct, but again, move on and try to focus on what you can still accomplish down the road here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a plain fact. Purdue wins the next 4, they win, they go to Indianapolis. It's as simple as that. I don't think anybody has to get beat in front of them or anything. But yeah, I agree with that. I think what was disconcerting was just like things we talked about before the game, like the stopping the run, limiting Wisconsin to and as Purdue has done all year defensively against the run. Well, that was out the window today because Wisconsin got several gashing runs. Braylon Allen, certainly the first among them, but there were others that really kind of makes you question. And again, maybe that's the best time for a bye week, is you can kind of erase all that and just move on. And that will test the coaching staff and the players. I mean, Aiden O'Connell wasn't very good today. Charlie Jones was. He made probably one of the great catches I've seen, the 6-bounce catch. I know you didn't get a chance to watch it on TV, but it's already shown up as the ESPN play of the day. Devin Mockabee had over 100 yards rushing, so you have to give him credit. I thought it was also interesting, at least on the radio portion of it, that Jeff Brom talked about it. Thought his team gave effort, didn't quit. It didn't seem. Coaches are going to say that, and Jeff's usually pretty honest about what he sees. But I didn't think it was a great effort, but that was maybe just because of the way the game was. They were so far out of the game, in a game that you expected to be one that went right down the wire, just flat didn't. And it really was kind of an anticlimactic afternoon from after the 4-minute mark in the first quarter. I mean, I think you're right.
Good time for the Wisconsin homecoming crowd, Alan.
Yeah. They did it, and a great time for Jim Leonard to have a resume builder, certainly, as he certainly looked the part. That's a nice win for you if you're in the hunt for that job. He certainly seems like a good fit from my perspective, even though I still think it's nuts that they get rid of Paul Chris, but maybe there was more to it than that. But you have to give them credit. Wisconsin came to play, stuck it right to Purdue from the get-go. Even the pick six, they did also run right down the field on Purdue to start the football game. So all those things tied to a very long afternoon for the Boilermakers.
Yeah, I think at least one good long pass play on that opening drive too. Like a hot knife through butter. And that was demoralizing. Then, of course, like you said, Aiden followed up with a pick six, and your shoulders slump. At least my shoulders slumped a little bit. And to get in that type of a hole in that environment against that opponent, just not ideal for Purdue, Allen. Big plays for Wisconsin. Graham Mertz only threw for 203 yards, but he averaged 15.6 yards per completion.
Yeah.
He had a 39-yard catch, a 29-yard or 19-yarders. There's some big plays in the pass game once again, after we know the staff spent a lot of time, Allen, last week trying to tighten up some of the loose ends in that secondary. There's still quite a few leaks that sprung. And then, of course, running the football, that's always Wisconsin's, trademark, Allen. 178 yards rushing. Finally, so many rushes for 100 yards against Purdue. Braylon Allen, surprise, surprise, right? He averaged 7.1 yards per carry. Some big runs, 54 yards, 41 yards. But again, back to the secondary, Allen. What a mess. I mean, I can't think of any other way to put it. On top of the bust, now they're losing people.
Yeah.
Corey Trice didn't play most of the game. Not sure what's wrong with him. He was hurt early. Then Jamari Brown goes out too. So you're down to Reese Taylor, and then you're playing a walk-on wide receiver as your other cornerback. And then they use Javon Grigsby, a redshirt freshman, a little bit too, who's really a safety. Of course, we know Chris Jefferson's been out too. So that's another D-back out. So my goodness, Allen, it's really becoming, I'll say I'm not sure if DEFCON 1 is worse than DEFCON 5. My war games knowledge is not good, but it's not a good situation right now. They've got to get this secondary figured out. We need to find out how long Trice and Brown are going to be out, number one. That's key. They got to get those two guys back. And still the tackling too, Allen. Cam Allen had a bad bust on one of the last touchdowns Wisconsin scored. He didn't play the rest of the game either. So again, some of the tackling back there is still shoddy. So just a lot of issues back there for the defense. And offensively, you talked about Aiden O'Connell. Jeff Brom said in the postgame it wasn't one of his better days. I think we all realized that. 3 interceptions, Allen. Now, the last one really wasn't his fault. It went through Paferi's hands. But Brom talked about last year, I forgot, Purdue had 5 turnovers against Wisconsin last year. You're not going to beat any good team like that. And tonight, of course, we see 3 turnovers once again. So, again, I was surprised as anybody, Alan. I was singing Aiden O'Connell's praises all week. Thought he was going to rip these guys apart. His final numbers don't look bad, but again, the interceptions were killer. So that was disappointing. I'll leave you with this. Devin Mockabee, buddy. The legend grows, right? Instead of crazy leg, let's call him the franchise, okay? A true bright spot. Once again, runs very hard. Had a 30-yard run early. A third 100-yard game this year, Allen. He's got almost 600 yards rushing. Outside shot to run for 1,000. I figured out he's got to run average 140 yards over the last 4 games, which is a lot. But nonetheless, what a fun story for Purdue's season.
Yeah, no doubt. First Purdue player. We didn't ever figure that out, but I think it was the first one since 1995 to run for 100 against Wisconsin. Unless really? I'm missing something. I think we're right on that. I think it was Mike Allstott and Ed Watson both running for wild on Wisconsin that game in 95. But
when's the last time one guy ran for 103 games in a season?
Yeah, it's been a
Markel
while.
Jones. Maybe Markel Jones.
Yeah, it might be, but either way, statistically, and as they always say, there are liars, damn liars, and statisticians. Purdue wins the passing yardage, and yes, Aiden O'Connell as much as you have to love Aiden O'Connell as a player and what he's done, but this is just not one of his finest hours. And I thought, and maybe, it's hard to know if he's 100%. I don't know if we're going to throw that back on anything at all, but I just thought they were just kind of, and you could see, at least on television, Jeff Brom having strong words with Aiden O'Connell, at least in terms of, like, what are you doing, son? That type of stuff. And that is shocking to me just because of what Aiden O'Connell has brought to the table game in and game out. So I guess the way to get through this on the Saturday night is that Purdue is, the faster you put this in the rearview mirror, the better off you are.
Yeah.
You move on, even though it is, I will say still, yes, Purdue has it all in front of them. They win their next 4 and they'll play in Indianapolis. But right now, as I say right now, there's no indication that you're going to beat Illinois in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whenever that game is, unless you fix some things and fix them in a hurry, because teams, it's now, maybe it's a case, Tom, you know more about this than I do, maybe it's now a case that people know what to do now against Purdue's defense a little bit. We saw last week Nebraska obviously stating the obvious, throwing up top, and today we saw some throwing up top, but we also saw some pretty good running as well. And like you said, long runs. Allen had the 41-yard run, and how do you pronounce his name? Gerondo, the 54-yarder, which he basically went untouched. I mean, that was kind of bizarro world. Maybe Purdue just to get lined up. And the other thing you talked about too, which you were looked at the statistics and talked about it, and there was nothing wrong with it. Purdue finally gave up points off turnovers this week, 14. Again, just a tough performance. And yet, there's you got you like you said, Iowa gets just absolutely embarrassed again today offensively. I know Ohio State's really good, but they may have a half dozen turnovers. Indiana loses to Rutgers. Northwestern loses again to Maryland, though they played them relatively well. You've got 3 games that you really should win. And maybe it's as simple as you got 3 weeks to get yourself really ready. I mean, you can't look past Iowa. I get that, but you got to figure out a way to just get back to where you were. We were watching today, Tom, and you were busy, but heck, you watched Syracuse really have a golden opportunity to beat Clemson. I mean, how funny would your record look had that happened? Because you should have beaten Syracuse, you should have beaten Penn State. You shouldn't have won today. We know that. But the way the game played out. But again, it's all is not lost. Purdue's just got to find a way to right itself, and we'll see if they can get that done.
Yeah, you're right, Alan. Plenty of possibilities left. I'm with you. That matchup in Champaign on November 12th, Illinois is built a lot like Wisconsin, Alan. Of course, Brett Bielema has coached both those programs, and he's got another ground pounding offense, right? We all know about Chase Brown, and he's got a heck of a defense, Alan. Maybe the best defense in the Big Ten, led by his coordinator, Ryan Walters, who's a real hot commodity. So you're right. You like Purdue's chances against Iowa at home, against Northwestern at home, and at Indiana. But my goodness, that game at Illinois, again, the matchups wouldn't seem to favor Purdue. That's still, I know, a ways away. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But who knows? I'm still going to take my chances, Alan, going to Champaign to play those guys. See really how good they are. For some reason, I'm still holding out some reservation. Who they really beat now? Who's Illinois?
Right, and I'm with you. I still go back to the August. A little bit of that too. That was a game which you circled as a sure win. I know the world has completely changed, but let's just, and that's why I think the shock and awe of the way the game played out today, though it was over early, really. In reality, it really was. Though Purdue, did a couple things and had a couple opportunities to kind of get back in it, they didn't. But again, maybe you have to say this is a bad performance, and let's move on. We're comparing, and I'm not comparing this Purdue football team to the Rose Bowl team or anything like that, but Drew Brees and company, after beating Ohio State, goes to Michigan State, who finished last place, and lays an egg beyond compare. It happens. move on. And yet I'm with you on that, is move on, yes, but don't, figure out what
Sure.
you're not doing right. And Jeff Brom and company will have to do that.
Oh no, on that same vein, along that same vein, Alan, Jeff Brom talked exactly about that thing in the post game. He said he wanted this to burn. He said it should burn everybody on the staff, everybody on that roster. This one should burn, it should resonate. This should bother you. And we'll see, right? We'll see. I think I was a fair to say. I thought maybe Purdue's tired. They played eight weeks in a row. Although remember, out in the 80s, everybody played 11 games in a row. There were no buys in the 80s. I digress. But anyway, they've been going a long time, and they can get a little catch your breath, try to solve some personnel issues, work on scheme, wipe the old slate clean. And because again, those 4 games are very doable. It's not Ohio State and Michigan on the on-deck circle, Alan. No disrespect to those 4 opponents, but we like to think Purdue probably is going to be favored in 3 of those 4. And so yeah, just a nice setup. Anyway, if I flash back to August too, Alan, I picked every game for Purdue this year, and I had them at 5-3 at this point.
There you go.
Different. I had them winning at Syracuse and losing to Minnesota, but I had them at 5-3, and still pretty good. If you'd have told me Purdue would be 5-3, 3-2 at the break in August, that's pretty good, right? Yeah. But we all knew, everybody knows once you get a taste down, you want more. And you're not satisfied. So I get it too. I'm like everybody else, but 5-3, this could be an 8 or 9 win team, Alan. And that's not too bad.
Yeah. And I think going back to 16 in a row, and you have to go back to the Chicago series with Purdue back in the 8 days of Amos Alonso Stagg. But I like your point about it's got to burn. And I'm not saying, again, I don't pretend to walk in the shoes of these kids, so to speak, but I did feel like, and again, I'm watching on TV, you're there, so it's not a fair assessment. I just felt like that there was a lack, Purdue lacked energy and everywhere, just whatever. And that may have been the function of the way the game started, but it just didn't seem like, there was no pizzazz in what was going on. And I understand that sometimes Purdue with Aiden O'Connell kind of plays a straightforward game, and that's because the way the quarterback is. But just seemed like you were lacking energy. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was a little bit of the fatigue factor. The injury factor is something that's going to be a real concern. And but boy, you'd like to ride the inspiration of a guy like Devin Mockabee, and to be honest, also a guy like Aiden O'Connell, who's still a great story no matter what happens to the rest of his career. You hope that you could find your way to get that energy, put your eggs in one basket, to use a Daryl Hazel term, and get yourself righted against Iowa, and fight like heck against Illinois, and see if you can get the job done in what will be a big college football game. Illinois still has to go to Michigan. Yeah. It has to go to Nebraska. But right now the challenge is you got to beat them head to head, because you can't be tied with them if they beat you. So again, fun to look ahead. Disappointing loss. We spared Brian Newbert being on this. He's down and he got to cover basketball today and watching Jaden Ivey tonight in Indianapolis. Though it doesn't sound like the Pistons had a real good game tonight either. But we'll move on, my friend, and we'll relive this. You need a bye week too, and that'll be a good thing. And we'll get back.
Now, wouldn't you have thought, if I would have told you Purdue would have a 100-yard rusher today? You have thought, man, Purdue's going to roll them.
A 100-yard rusher, a 300-yard passer, and a 100-yard receiver. I'd like Purdue's chances, and that's where statistics lie to you. And Aiden O'Connell, his first between 300 and 350-yard game of his career, right? So first time when he's thrown for over 300, he didn't make 350, but that might be a
interceptions, the pick six.
Yeah,
and that missed field goal really.
I think that was probably, even though in that situation, Tom, it was disappointing that Purdue had to settle for a field goal because they got down there, but you still can't miss that. And
It's just like that's when you're just gasping for air. You want some positivity. You want that zero to get off the scoreboard. You want some life, and then, oh God.
Yeah, and I think this team needed that kick also
Can't
just
happen.
some level of stability, and they didn't get it. So, you know what, Tom? Though, if we keep talking, we're going to be on for 2 hours.
I know. Okay.
No, I think you got a bed behind you there, and you need to get in it after this is over and get your work done. But no, we it just was, and we always appreciate your coverage, and we'll see. I know the grades aren't going to be real good tomorrow, and as you go back and watch this one again, but let's take a break for a week and see what we can get. It will be interesting. That's the good thing. And you got to give Jeff Brom and company. If you look at the big picture, it is interesting football. They're playing for something, even though today was a huge disappointment. And that will be, at least you're doing that in November. They'll keep you. We'll keep us interested, and we'll have a storyline to tell. We'll come back to a sellout crowd in Ross-Ade Stadium. Yep. Maybe that'll give the Boilermakers rekindle some energy, so that they can make a run in November. We'll
just real quick. Lastly, Alan, next week, Purdue is going to practice on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk to Jeff Brom on Tuesday, and that's going to be it for the week. Just let people know. Then the staff is going to hit the road on Wednesday. They'll be out Wednesday through Saturday after practice, recruiting, visiting the commitments. And the team's going to be off basically Friday and Saturday. They're going to come in Thursday to lift the weights. So that's got sort of an idea what the schedule looks like for the staff and the players this coming week. No Jeff Brom radio show. No Jeff Brom Monday press conference. We'll just talk to him after practice for, 5-10 minutes on Tuesday.
All right. Sounds good. And we'll look forward to that. And a lot of basketball on the site this week also as the Boilermakers get ready for exhibition season and all that will be coming. And again, we can check that out as well. All right, Tom, have a safe trip home tomorrow. And it is going to be a beautiful fall day, I think, for you, even on the way. I mean, we get to look at those leaves, and do all that on the way back, and dream of better days ahead for Purdue. But either way, you're going to cover them win or lose. So that's the way it works in this business. So, all right, safe travels. Thanks again. Thanks to the Union Club Hotel for all they do, and the Boiler Up Bar, the 811 Bistro. It is it's an idyllic fall campus weekend here in West Lafayette, and the Union is certainly part of that. All right, have a good one. We'll see you next week. No, we won't see you next week. We'll see you in 2 weeks after the big game against Iowa, and more of our Saturday conversation. Take care, all. Thank you.